What's going on, everybody? It's another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. I am super excited today. We're going to be breaking down UFC Austin with two great guests. I'm coming at you a little late. I got to say, I fell asleep on the job. My man Pepe was ready to go. I was asleep on the job last night. So to those of you who are waiting up, I truly apologize. But I had a very long day, started at 5 a.m. yesterday, and just could not make it through to the end. So what I have for you today is my final thoughts on the event, right? We had weigh-ins. We've seen a lot of information. We're kind of at the peak point of information in terms of where we're at in the week, and I'm very excited to get after it. So I got two great guests to bring along with me. They're excited to get after it as well. Last housekeeping that we have to do is just to shout out my sponsor, PrizePicks. They bring us the show each and every week. Appreciate their help and support. Going to try and take them for some coin, as always, on UFC Austin. So I'm going to be taking a look at what they've got to offer this week as we go through the show. But that being said, want to bring in my man, returning guest, King of New York, friend of the show, Pepe Sylvia. How you doing, my brother?
My man. Yo, I'm fucking ready. I'm dialed the fuck in and stoked for this card. It's going to be a banger. A lot of fun matchups.
100%. I could not agree more. There's a lot of fights, but truly at the top of the card, we've really got an elite featherweight matchup. There's no other way to put it. So I'm excited, man. That's one of the best divisions in the sport. And two of the guys that are going to bring an absolute war each and every time. And another guy who's going to go to absolute war each and every week with us is our man, Evan. How you doing today, brother? First time guest. Welcome to the show.
Liam, thanks for having me on, man. Excited to be here. Great to see Uncle Pepe. Full disclosure, I'm tilting a little bit already. I'm trying to edit 65 DraftKings lineups after the Cerrone Lauzon fight got pulled again. So, but otherwise, I'm excited to break down these fights, man. I got a lot of units at stake, and I got some hot takes. So let's go.
I freaking love it. I have a little bit of a smaller card here, but I'm kind of getting to the point in the week where I'm crystallizing those final opinions, and I'm really feeling a little more confident in my read. So might end up firing a little bit more here as we discuss on the show. But without further ado, folks, we could start like we always do at the top of the event with the actually really good matchup of Kyle Dawkis and Roman Dolidze. And the reason I say really good is because it does present some interesting dynamics, in my opinion. I think Kyle Dawkis should be better everywhere here. He is significantly favored to win the fight. However, Roman Dolidze has kind of got a weird game. He goes for the same kind of peek outs on the back, and he's pretty good at doing it over and over again. He's not elite by any means. I do think he starts to tire out in his fights, but he also enters into the Ashigarami a lot. And I think that the leg lock game is something that, not everybody is well versed in. I do think that the Dawkis camp should be sufficient to defend those leg lock series. But that was the one thing that gave me pause at this kind of significant juice to back somebody like Kyle Dawkis is I have seen him slow down a little bit, like I've seen from Dolidze. And I have seen that Dawkis will sometimes engage in the grappling and make mistakes where he falls out of position, getting over aggressive. And I just think that Dolidze, while he's not, elite necessarily in any one area, I do think he can make him pay if he gets the right position. So ultimately, it's a fight I ended up passing on for now. I bet Dawkis against Jamie Pickett bigly inside the distance. I thought that was a great spot, but this one I don't feel quite as confident in. I thought there was a bigger level gap in the grappling in that fight. How do you feel, Pepe?
So I jumped in on the Dawkis side when he was at minus 196 for 2 units on FanDuel early. I like getting in early on these lines because the market is getting better and more efficient lately. So I tried to jump in as early as possible. I have just under a unit on Fight Goes the Distance at minus 120 as almost like a mild hedge for a Dolidze decision, but also like a double fisted grab if Dawkis wins by decision, which I can totally see happening. But Dawkis is just a guy I'm high on. I was huge on him against Pickett. And I was also big on him against Hawes, and that was definitely a letdown spot. A fight he should have won, had the tools to win, and he allowed Hawes to get some cage push on, which I'm a little nervous about with Dolidze because
that's about all he could do.
That's all he can do. But I don't see Dolidze finishing Dawkis. Dolidze is also very durable, so I like my positions right now. But I wouldn't get involved in the money line at the current price.
Yeah, and you make a great point, man. Like at minus 190, it's a lot more appealing of a bet, you know, but now the market's moved almost 5 points since then. You're looking at minus 250, best market price available. And it's not to say I don't think he wins. It's just the margins are quite thin at that point in terms of finding value. Evan, how do you feel about this matchup?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what you guys already said. I kind of like, in hindsight, I don't have a play on the fight. I think the early Dawkis lines were pretty good. I think it's a little wide now, as you guys alluded to. People are probably parlaying Dawkis, which I think he's probably safe. I'm not interested in getting involved at this price point. I might fish for a live bet. I think he probably has the cardio advantage here. So maybe Dawkis comes out and looks to grapple and gets an early takedown. I wouldn't be shocked by that. I don't think he can sustain a really elite pace, and I think you'll probably need a good pace to beat Dawkis over 15 minutes. So for me, it's just pass right now, but I'll probably be fishing on a live bet for Dawkis if it makes sense.
I like that. And the other thing that I'll mention here just on the way out is you did see that Dawkis, even when he gets to some of the positions he likes, Officer Trevin Giles gave him an absolute whooping from the Ashigarami, was just punching him in the head relentlessly. And I do think Dawkis has the same kind of length that could give him problems in that position. He could probably punish him with strikes if he gets too aggressive for the leg lock. So these are all the things I've considered on the matchup. I did want to just point out, though, Khadisi Ibragimov, he's a not very good fighter at all. But I don't think he got knocked out like brutally by anybody else in the UFC except Ramon Dawkis. That was actually something I completely like memory hold. I had no memory of that happening. So I did just want to mention like kind of sneaky power with his kicks early because I think Khadis has even done well again outside the UFC since his departure, rapid departure. But I think that's just something to note. You know, Dawkis, he kind of seems one note, but he does have some pretty decent power early. He's kind of got a brick for a head too from that Giles fight. He was taking a lot of clean shots and, you know, doesn't lose that confidence.
Yeah, the Dawkis Cadiz fight, that was at 205 though. So I don't know if his power translates as much at 185 with the extra weight cutting. He just hasn't demonstrated it since going down.
I totally agree. Makes perfect sense, my man. And that's one of the things that people don't talk about is the detriments of cutting down weight. Like, yes, you can get some advantages, but you are also making trade-offs physically. And anybody who's ever competed in cut weight knows that it really sucks. When you cut weight, you feel like shit. And you have some time to recover in the UFC. They've got a pretty sufficient recovery window of about 24 hours. But with the amount of weight these guys are cutting, you still will feel the effects the day after. So just something to keep in mind here. Another matchup where weight cutting may play a factor here. At 185 pounds, we got Wynn and Phil Hawes. I must say I started this week a little bit more bullish on the Wynn side as a potential underdog. And just as I looked into the physical advantages for Phil Hawes, you know, he probably should be landing clean, hard strikes in this fight early and often. But the problem I have with backing him is just that I think he's fragile. I do think that he is like always subject to colossal fall apart. He could be minus 1,000 in this fight, winning every minute, and then just get doinked at any point or hit to the body and fold up or something like that. So I think that Phil Hawes should probably win the fight, but I have no interest in betting on him. So this was a matchup that turned into a pretty easy pass for me. But I told people on the Roto Grinders premium stream this week, it would not be surprising to me if Phil Hawes got knocked out. It would just be funny. How do you feel, Pepe?
So I've been mentally flirting with a win bet for a couple days, but I haven't pulled the trigger. And I think it's one that I'm gonna just approach from a live market sense. You know, Hawes is going to be most dangerous in round one, so I think it's more. I think the sharper way to approach the fight is to just hit Wynn live after one if he survives it. I don't think the number is going to be much different than it is pre-flop, and then you take away the variance on him just getting outclassed on the feet in round one. So I don't have anything on pre.
I like that as an approach. And the one thing that I've heard a lot of people are bullish on the win decision side of things. And I would think, like, you know, judging by Phil Hawes' history, he's actually really good at weaseling decisions when he makes it there. It's just like a question of whether or not you could do something that really hurts him or bothers him. And Wynn is not normally that guy, but I do think he's been away putting in some work, and it wouldn't surprise me if he tried to get off some ground and pound here. If he's able to get him down, I do think the lower center of gravity and the better wrestling pedigree could pay dividends for Duran in an underdog bid here. Evan, how do you feel?
Yeah, same thought as you guys. This is an easy pass for me. I think at current pricing, Wynn is probably the side, like looking at plus 225 on FanDuel. There's probably some value there in my opinion, but I can't trust either guy. You know, it's a big slate. There's plenty of opportunities. Maybe fishing for a live bet makes sense, but I don't know. I think you said Hawes has all the physical advantages. He's a much more dynamic athlete. I think he's going to probably land pretty hard pretty early. But Wynn is, you know, he's reliable to keep shooting takedowns. And if Hawes does slow down and he can flatten him out, I think it gets dicey for Hawes. So I wouldn't put him in a parlay. I wouldn't really mess with this fight. And as far as it goes the distance versus inside the distance, I have no clue. Like this is just such an easy pass for me. Very high variance fight. So I'm happy to just watch it.
That makes a gang load of sense as well. You know, sometimes $1 saved is $1 earned, but do want to shout out my man Library. Says, how do you not bet on a guy named Wynn? I will say it's tempting. It's very tempting. And I might get there before fight time. I have been thinking that Duran Wynn is live since they first booked this matchup, but there's just this like weird gut feeling that's been keeping me off it. We'll see if I get there before fight time, but it's definitely a Duran win or pass situation as far as I'm concerned. And with that being said, guys, we can move to a 135-pound fight. This is one of the fights I'm really least excited about on the card. I do think that there may be some legs to the dog here, which is crazy to say. But the only reason I do say it is because Cody Stamen last time out, I just thought looked like a shell of himself. You know, I was expecting at least him to go out there and put up some resistance. I thought he was getting hurt with shots early. And I thought that he got put away with a pretty easy submission hold. And that's not the first time that's happened to him either, in terms of like giving up weird submissions as well. Like the Suluev stretch against Aljo. I know it's Aljo and Aljo's a killer, but it's also just like a weird meme-ish low percentage finish. So there's some concerns I have about Cody Stamen. I don't know if he's particularly insistent on his wrestling game. And when he did decide to use it, it was at a really inopportune time against Saeed. Put himself in danger and got himself finished, head right in the hole. So I think that there's some concerns to be had when you're trying to lay minus 500 on a guy. But do I understand the desire to fade Eddie Weinland, who's looked a little bit shot lately? I do. But I also think that I kind of rate the guys that knocked out Eddie Weinland. You know, like I don't think John Castaneda is a terrible fighter or something. I bet him in that spot. I thought it was a good spot. And then I also thought that Sean O'Malley, he like this is a clear speed edge as far as I'm concerned. A little bit of a technique edge, and if you give Sean O'Malley, a guy with his hands completely down at his sides with a stationary target, seems like an easy knockout for him. So that for me, I don't really rate as like things that Cody Stamen is like likely to replicate. He's got a terribly short reach. Which short king gang, I'm not hating on him, but I'm just saying it's something that concerns me. Again, when you're looking at a minus 500, he doesn't really have the physical tools necessarily. So I think that I can't get to a Cody Stamen play here personally. He should win the fight. This is kind of a gimme fight, but it's the last fight on his contract as well. That puts a lot of pressure on you. I don't know. We've seen undue pressure break people, especially when you're used to being a guy who's an underdog, who's fighting all these tough guys. Now you're expected to win. He's minus 500. He's 85%. It's like this guy can't lose the fight now. That's a lot of pressure. Last fight of your contract, can't lose the fight. I don't know, man. Just not something I want to get involved in personally. Should be like an ultimate motivation spot for Cody Stamen. But you'd have to think the same for Eddie Weinland. You know, he's trying to cling to a career here, and he's been around for a long time, grizzly old vet. So shout out to both these guys. But I think it would have to be a Weinland or pass situation for me. Pepe, how do you feel?
Yeah, I jumped on the Stamen opener when it was minus 275 just for 2 units, but obviously all the value has been evaporated from that line, and there's absolutely no way you could play him at current price. But I'm not even interested in a Weinland ARB situation to guarantee profit. I feel that comfortable with my Stamen play early. So other than that, I don't have anything else. I think he's gonna win, but like the number's stupid right now.
Fair. I kind of agree. Evan, how about you?
So I have a 2-unit bet on this fight. I took the over 2.5 at -155. I think Stamen wins the fight. First of all, I love Eddie Weinland. Respect, such an OG, WEC bantamweight champ. He's 38 years old. Now Cody Stamen needs to win here, and I think he's going to come out and probably take the path of least resistance, which in this case is he should probably be diving on legs pretty early. I mean, if there is a chance for Weinland to pull off the upset as a minus plus 500 underdog, he probably just catches them on the feet. But Stamen has a good chin. He's a durable guy. So I don't think that happens. But if you're Stamen, you got to figure take him down. Now Weinland has a good takedown defense, like 78% or something like that. But I think Stamen's, I think it's safe to project him for 1 to 2, maybe even 3 takedowns throughout the fight. So I like the over. I guess obviously the way this busts is if Weinland's chin is just completely dust, which is possible. But to your point, Liam, I do kind of rate the guys that Weinland's recently been knocked out by. And Stamen's not that guy. Stamen's a good fighter. I don't think he could bust a grape on the feet. I mean, his last finish was in 2017. It was a cut stoppage. So I think Stamen's comfortable to win the fight. I really like the line that Pepe got. You're like the CLV king over there, bro. But for me, I like the over. I think, I think there's a good chance of maybe this even going to the card. So that's where I'm at.
I like it. I think that you guys have a pretty sound take here. I hate the pricing, man. The pricing, as it's coming to close here, I'm trying to look right now. I think best available price plus 500 on BetMGM. I mean, like they're literally just opening wide up arbitrage opportunities here. So all very interesting market movements, but I'm rooting for you guys with that bet. Haven't gotten to any plays myself yet, but it would be a dog or pass situation for me with a plus 500 on the board. That being said, though, we can move along to the next fight here. Should be a little bit more competitive. We got Gloria De Paula taking on Maria Oliveira. I like Gloria De Paula. I've been betting on her. I kind of thought that she was going to beat Jinh Yu Frey. She won a round there, but wasn't able to win the fight. I actually thought that Jinh Yu Frey just impressed me. She came out and fought better than she had been fighting recently. So I thought Gloria De Paula would have beat the version of Jinh Yu Frey I had seen on tape. But I did mention in the breakdown of that fight that I was concerned she was working with Mindset Mike. I think that's made a huge difference for Jinh Yu Frey. She's coming out more aggressive. She's throwing more strikes. She's attempting takedowns at a higher rate. So I think that we've seen mental coaching play a big role in that. But with that being said, in this matchup, we got Gloria De Paula. She's coming off a win over Diana Belbita. I bet her in that matchup at an underdog price. And, I believe to win by submission in that spot. And she did not. But she attempted a few and she started some grappling sequences. And I was thinking to myself, I don't really rate Maria Oliveira on the same level. I thought that Tabitha Ricci was tagging her up on the feet. I thought that for various portions of the fight, especially early, she was very reactive. She does not like the prospect of being taken down, I don't believe. And on top of that, she kind of quit just straight out against, Marina Rodriguez on the Contender Series. And we've seen, we'll talk about Natalia Silva at 19 years old. She went out there and took an absolute whooping and tried to pull guard for 10 minutes, but she stood in there and took the shot. So I think that for me, I like Gloria De Paula better as a prospect. Am I in love with laying this price? No, I'm not in love with laying this price. That's kind of why I have a smaller slate on this UFC card, just because I kind of agree with the sides that are favored heavily, and I tend to be more of an underdog better. If anything, I will probably get to a Paula inside the distance or a Paula, prop play of some kind. But truly, it's a fight that I don't want a ton of exposure on. I do think that neither girl is like a guaranteed lock or something. We have seen some takedown deficiencies from Gloria De Paula in the past, but I think she's made some improvements in that realm. I think she's with the right camp to make those improvements. So overall, I like her improving game over time. I think Gloria De Paula is the better prospect, and I think people like the record that they're seeing on the other side a little bit better, but I kind of like Gloria De Paula in this spot. Pepe, how do you feel?
So, as you guys know, I love my WMMA underdogs. Like, I live for this shit. But so you would think Pepe is going to be on Oliveira, but no, I couldn't find anything in the tape to justify a bet on Oliveira at the current price. And square me, like back in the day, would probably love to chuck De Paula and like a bunch of parlays, but like I don't like, this is such a parlay card. Like me 2 years ago would be all over this card, like have 6 or 7 parlays going, but that's just not the way I like to bet anymore. So like I think De Paula is pretty safe. That being said, 115 WMMA fights can play out closer than you think. So there's obviously way more risk when you're playing those juiced favorites, which is why I generally side with the underdog. But there's not enough on tape from the Oliveira side to make me feel comfortable with placing my money on her. So I'm completely passing on the fight. I was thinking about De Paula inside the distance. I think it's like plus 300, plus 350. But it's not wide enough. And I don't, yeah, I would need probably like plus 550 for De Paula. ITD, I would have played for like half a unit, but other than that, I'm completely passing on this fight.
I think they're offering the same that they offered last time. De Paula by sub plus 1,600. Boys, you just might have me again. Evan, how do you feel about this one?
Pretty similar, man. It's a pass for me. I think Gloria probably has her covered. If I thought Gloria had more takedown equity, I'd probably like her to cover this number and maybe play her, but only landing 1 takedown officially against Belbita is a little concerning to me. I don't think she's that physical. She might come out and, Maria Oliveira, I don't think is UFC caliber by any stretch of the imagination. So she could totally cover this number and like you said, sub her, take her down, take her back. It's a wrap. But I kind of project the fight to play out on the feet, and I think Gloria probably wins on volume, but I'm not interested in getting involved in this one.
Official bet. 0.19 units to win $300 on Gloria De Paula by sub. Let's run it. All right.
I'm
next
telling
fight.
that.
My
I'm
man.
that.
Square duel. Best in the business. Appreciate you guys. Thank you. That being said, folks, we can move along to another fight here. A lot of Brazilians on this card. We got our boy Ricardo Ramos taking on a struggling prospect from the U.S., our boy Danny Chavez here on the other side. And to be honest with you boys, this is a fight I kind of overlooked a little bit this week. I looked at the Ramos side. He's not a guy that I've been betting on a ton historically. So that for me was an indicator. He's in a ton of close fights. Now he's a huge favorite. That's not really something I'm looking to get involved in. When I think of Danny Chavez, I'm not thinking of a guy that I really want to book as a betting commodity. He's not very good at MMA, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. I think that he has some tools. He could throw a leg kick. He can throw with a decent amount of power, but he really doesn't do very much. He's pretty low volume. He's not consistent to come forward and shoot takedowns. There's no one process he has to win MMA fights on a consistent basis, as far as I'm concerned. So I think that's tough. Does he have a chance to win this fight? Is it probably a fight that plays out really competitively? Yes. But I think that this is unfortunately one of those fights that Ricardo Ramos wins like a close or split decision at a decent clip here if it goes to the cards. And I think he's probably got a little bit more submission equity as well. But I don't know that I have a very strong read on this fight. Pepe, how do you feel?
Yeah, I have no interest on the Chavez side or the Ramos side. If Chavez was a couple years younger, at the current price, I probably would have taken a little poke at him, but he's 35 and Ramos is 26 and like entering his prime. Ramos is a lot more well-rounded, a lot more skilled pretty much everywhere. He just doesn't do a ton to like put stamp on rounds, but I think he has Chavez covered pretty clearly, and I wouldn't be surprised if he got a finish. Chavez is tough, so like I'm not going to bet on it, but I'll predict a submission for Ramos. Chavez is just someone I'm not high on, and Ramos was pretty impressive in his last fight against Tuke and Fight Island. He showed a lot of toughness. His striking is just a lot more varied and advanced than Chavez, and just the age and length is enough to not take a stab at Chavez, even at the generous plus 250 line.
I agree with you, my man. I think that Chavez is unfortunately a trap by the number spot this week for some people. I do think that there's going to be sharp guys on him because Ramos fights very close. He does not put a stamp on rounds, like you mentioned. So this could be split decision territory. This could be Sal D'Amato's fingerprints all over this. Just wanted to shout out Live versus Pepe's female MMA bet ROI is like his OnlyFans sub rate extremely high. Could be a direct correlation. There's no evidence. As Colby Covington once said, there's no evidence. Evan, how do you feel, bro?
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same. I was on Danny Chavez against Kai Kamaka, and I felt very fortunate to come away with a draw in that spot. He was pretty much outclassed. Yeah, I just think he's limited. He's kind of void of process. Like if he can get his leg kicks going, but otherwise, he's kind of, I don't know. He's just very average everywhere. I think Ramos probably has him covered. But again, I think Chavez is tough enough, durable enough. I think he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You don't see it much, but I think probably goes the distance. Is if I was going to play it, would be my angle. But yeah, just a pass for me.
If you're not taking OnlyFans content into consideration for WMMA, that's lazy capping in my world.
I couldn't agree more. People don't want to do their tape study. Pepe,
right.
How often do we say this? People don't want to do their tape study, and
Dude,
it's an unfortunate part of the industry. But some of us are willing to do what others aren't willing to do to win, and that's
you got to do what you got to do.
I am kidding, of course, folks, but we move to another fight. No OnlyFans in this one. We got the Utah native Court McGee, about as upstanding as you can get. Guy's got a great story, inspirational. He's all over UFC.com this week as a result. But on the other side, you got a young killer here, younger, I should say. He's not that young, but Jeremiah Wells. I do think he's the more primed athlete at this point in their careers. I don't think Court has aged poorly. I think that he's held himself together well. He's still doing a lot of work. I thought he looked good physically, especially for his age, like fantastic, as a matter of fact. But I do think that you look at somebody like Jeremiah Wells and he's got big muscles. He's got big power. He's got like show-stopping power, hits people and they don't move, as we've heard a couple guys say in the past. But when I think about this matchup, man, I kind of get weird concerned, right? Because I see Jeremiah Wells here at slight plus money as even money. And I think, why am I not betting Jeremiah Wells here for a large sum of money? But then the other thing I ask is, why has the market shown so much respect to the Court McGee side? And I've seen a bunch of sharp guys that I respect with opinions on the Court McGee side here. I do think he's got good physical tools, but I kind of struggle to see his danger factor in this fight as much as Jeremiah. I think that Jeremiah is just a far more dangerous guy when this fight's on the feet. I don't see Court McGee subbing somebody like Jeremiah Wells. I think that if somebody was to get submitted here, it would be more likely it's Court McGee. So for those reasons, I do have some hesitation here to get with the Court McGee side, but a lot of people I respect feel differently. How do you feel, Pepe?
I took some early Court McGee action at plus 143, and I lined the fight as like minus 125 McGee. But honestly, it's not like a fight I love to get involved with on the McGee side. I just thought the line was off because Wells is such a fast starter. I generally like betting on fast starters and then live betting the opposite side if the fast starter doesn't get it done. But with McGee, he's just a guy you can trust. He's got 15 minutes of cardio. He's the more proven commodity. He's shown even at his age now, he's still in great shape, super well-rounded. And, he's going to fight for your money. So where things are now, I wouldn't get involved, but the early McGee caught my attention. But it should be a fun fight. Like, Wells is an unknown commodity. Like, we really don't know how good he is. There's a lot of things on tape that are like red flaggish from like a technical striking standpoint. His competition has been pretty poor, so it's tough to get a read on him. And the 2 UFC fights that he's had were against like Blood Diamond and Worley Alves, who just quit. So you can't get a great read on him. And I thought the market was overvaluing Wells because he came off 2 quick finishes. So that's why I jumped on the McGee early, but I don't really know how it's going to play out.
So this is one of the weirdest moves I've ever seen personally. So I can't verify this. I'd be curious if anybody has access to 5 Dimes as a sports book, if they could verify this for me. But I'm looking right now, and the best market price on Jeremiah Wells is plus 101 on Bet River Sportsbook. And the best market price on Court McGee is plus 205 on 5 Dimes. Can anybody confirm that for me? Because if so, that's the weirdest move I've ever seen, and I'm hammering Wells. That being said, I just looked at the Pinnacle odds. Oh, shit. All right, Pinnacle's starting to take action on Jeremiah Wells, too. What's going on here? All right, I'm getting sketched out, folks. I'm getting real sketched out. Bet Rivers just moved it, too. Holy shit. Holy shit. What are you guys all betting it right now, you bastards? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So, yeah, it's either – okay. It's a line mistake. Just wanted to make sure because I saw that and I was thinking that's insane. But either way, I do think that the late action has started to pour in on the Jeremiah Wells side here for whatever that's worth. Probably going to close a pick'em type fight. Evan, how do you feel?
Interesting fight. I don't have a play on it. I would be probably looking to fish for a Court McGee live bet. I think Wells' success is, pretty front loaded, but again, I don't know for sure. Like, I think Court, we know for a fact he can fight a hard pace for 15 minutes. I can't say that for certain about Jeremiah Wells. I think he probably wins round 1 at a high clip. So if you think he's starting to fade and Court's live, I think maybe you'll probably get a good price after round 1. Court McGee, like, he's hard to take down and he's even harder to hold down. I mean, Sean Brady's one of the best in the business at welterweight at controlling guys on the mat. He scored 2 takedowns over McGee, but really didn't get a lot of control time. So if you're playing Jeremiah Wells, maybe you look for like a knockout prop. But again, Court McGee's only ever been knocked out 1 time by Santiago Ponzinibbio like years ago. So it's a tough fight for me to call, man. I think my optimal path here is a McGee live bet if it makes sense. But I'm excited to watch this one. I want to learn some things about Jeremiah Wells. 35 years old, comes out of a great camp, man. That camp is 14-0 in the UFC. That camp is phenomenal out of Philly. I did like the Daniel Gracie team. So I'm excited. But yeah, I think I'll probably just look to live bet McGee if it makes sense.
Fair enough. And I think that makes sense. The only thing that concerns me, boys, is just like, I know Sean Brady is a good control grappler, but he is not the guy who's going to put himself out of position to go for a sub. Like, he's going to try and fight a very disciplined fight. I think he's the much more composed of the two of them. But who is more dangerous, like just in every phase of MMA, like off rip? I believe it's Jeremiah Wells. Like, who's more likely to try and pass your guard instantly and rip something off you? Jeremiah Wells. He might spend himself doing that and then lose, but I think that he's much more likely to do that. So I think when you look at guys that have, come after Court McGee, I can't think of many guys this dangerous. Like, I do rate Jeremiah Wells as just a guy who could beat any welterweight. He could probably lose to any welterweight too. He fights a very, open style. He's going to get caught on the chin by somebody who's faster than him at some point, I would think. But I think that right now, Court McGee's going to have his hands full in the first 7 minutes of this fight. So, like you said, live entry season probably could make sense. If Wells is coming out there like a bat out of hell doing laps around the octagon and stuff in the first round, then maybe that second round entry on Court is a good look. But I do have my concerns here. I think Court McGee just hit that 38 years of age mark, and 38 is when guys start getting knocked out, just the book on Fightnomics, it goes like 36, 35, and 38. It just, their knockout rate skyrockets. So I think it's probably less likely you get submitted here. You do see that the rate at which older veterans get submitted goes down over time because they're continuing to accrue skills, but the rate at which they get knocked out increases exponentially. So just something to keep in mind here. That's probably why Wells KO is priced plus 450. His subline is priced in the plus 500 and plus 600 range. So with that being said, guys, we can move along to another fight that has lit up MMA Twitter this week. Jasmine Jasudavicius, and she cashed a lot of tickets for people. I understand why they like her, taking on Natalia Silva here. And Silva is an interesting case as far as I'm concerned. You know, she was supposed to make her debut last year and had an arm injury. Wasn't able to make that come to fruition, but now she says she's excited to fight. Everything she's been looking to do has been to get involved in the cage, and she says she's just grateful for the opportunity to be here. So then you've got on the other side, Jasmine. She's a little bit longer in the tooth. You know, she's kind of been putting in some years. She's got a Canadian wrestling background. She's got some good top pressure. She's big for the division. She's a big, strong girl. So I think that Jasmine brings in some clear advantages here, but I have to say, I kind of liked a lot of what I saw from Natalia Silva. She's not a perfect fighter by any means, but I saw a huge glaring hole in her game when she fought Marina Rodriguez. All she did was kick. So every time Marina Rodriguez closed down the pocket, she was getting messed up and she was forced to pull guard or do something else. She was a Taekwondo fighter. So a lot of what she was doing was just kicks from the outside. She had to back up constantly. In her more recent fights, which granted, her fight tape isn't that recent. There's not a ton of footage. I know those things. But what I like is she is aggressive. She's putting punches and kicks together in combination. She was ending her punching combinations with her kicks. And I think that she could be a candidate for a flash knockout by just hitting somebody with a shin to the head at some point. I don't think she puts a ton of power behind her kicks each time, but I do think any one of them against somebody with poor defense who keeps their head up, Jasmine, I think, can sometimes fall into that category, especially as she gets tired. I think she could be eligible to get head kicked in this fight. She is a little bit taller, though, so it's probably going to be difficult to get it up there. I think the body kicks could pay dividends. You know, Jasmine's got a big, long torso, a lot of room for those kicks to come in. I think that might lead to takedowns, but I do think that Natalia Silva, as a BJJ purple belt, might have something to offer from her back as well. And I know that we saw Kay Hansen get controlled for various portions of the fight, but she's a purple belt as well, and an American one at that. You know, I do think sometimes Brazilian girls who are really aggressive, who come in with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu background and some violent streak to them. You know, she did bust up Marina Rodriguez's eye in the first round, by the way, at 19 years of age. She's 25 now. I think she's going to be making huge improvements. I kind of think Natalia Silva is a very live underdog this weekend, but I didn't play her yet because I'm waiting to see what happens with this line. I had seen a lot of love on the Jasmine side as well. I think that there's a path to Jasmine just winning a bunch of control minutes by being the bigger girl here, but I don't think the size difference is enough for me to get on board. I do think that Jasmine's cardio over 15 minutes can be slightly called into question. And Elise Reed, you know, I thought highly of her because of how she performed against Jasmine, and it cost us a bet, Pepe, as you know. So I think that I had to do some reevaluating of where these girls stand. And I do think, you know, CFFC, tough organization, good fighters. We talked about many of them already on this card. I think this might be one where, you know, the CFFC girl might be in some trouble here. So I kind of like Natalia Silva or passing here personally. Pepe, how do you feel?
So this was a fight I was having a hard time establishing what the sharp side was. And there's just too many questions for me to feel confident either way. So I'm completely staying away. Silva hasn't fought in 2 years. She's only 25, but she's small for a 125er. Like she's only 5'4". Her reach isn't listed on Tapology, but she doesn't really use her reach well at all. But her striking could look like completely leveled up. She's only 25 and hasn't fought in 2 years, so we don't really know too much about her at all. Yeah, I'm completely passing. I don't know. Yeah, Jasmine is someone that like I will potentially be fading, and I might be missing the spot here, but there's nothing on tape that I've seen um, that makes me feel confident in the Silva side. I kind of feel like I would just be kind of taking like a blind fade on Jasmine. Um, yeah, Silva's tape isn't that pretty. Her level of competition is abysmal, but at her age, with the improvement she could be making, um, I wouldn't be surprised if she won. Um, I'm not super high on Jasmine, but she has shown that she can win decisions with good control, and she's gonna go for what she does well. She's not confused about how she wins fights. So I'm just completely staying away, but I get the bets on the Silva side.
Would you believe me if I told you that Natalia Silva on paper has 2 times the pro experience, despite being 8 years younger, and that her level of opposition has a 74.5% win rate? Granted, most of it on the Brazilian regional scene, so you don't want to read too much into that. But Jasmine, on the other hand, her opponents, I did like just a topology run through, right? 26-15 for a 63% win rate. So many fewer fights. So she's fighting a bunch of girls that are inexperienced, that don't have that many wins, don't have that many losses. Girls like Elise Reed that we can't really make a strong read on either. Yes, we can rate that they've made it to the UFC. They're definitely a better level of competition. But again, she was fighting these girls, including Marina Rodriguez, UFC level fighter, at 19 years of age. Then she takes some time away. She comes back. She gets a couple more wins under her belt. And now we've seen, again, a gap. I think she made big improvements from first gap to second gap. Not to say that she became an elite fighter, but like she went from being competitive at space with these lower level regional talents to landing a lot of clean shots, beating them up, and answering when they tried to wrestle her with pressure. I believe that knockout for the Jungle Fight title was actually in the 4th round as well. So she showed that she has the cardio to go. As far as I'm concerned, not the best level of competition, but I think she's going to be ready for prime time here. And I like Natalia Silva to at least come in and make this a competitive scrap. If nothing else, I think she's going to be somebody that sticks around the UFC probably longer than Jasmine in the end. Evan, how do you feel? Pepe.
I like the slight differing of opinions here. I think it's an interesting fight, fascinating fight. I did some tape on Natalia Silva, and I came away, mildly impressed. I think she's a good striker by WMMA standards. I think she throws a lot of volume. I think she's quick. I think she knows what to do on the feet. I think she's going to, despite the layoff, 2 years off, like you alluded to, she's got 18 fights. And 18 pro fights, she's 25 years old, So she's an interesting prospect, in my opinion. I do have a bet on the fight. I bet Jasmine by decision, 1 unit plus 105. I think, to your point, Liam, I think Silva probably has the higher ceiling in the UFC, if we're being honest. But I think stylistically, this might be a tough matchup for her. After a 2-year layoff, first time fighting in the UFC, in front of a crowd. I think Jasmine, despite Silva having more experience, Jasmine's got, a little bit of UFC level experience. I think, I don't know. Listening to some interviews about, Jasmine talking about the fight, she's like, look, I got to watch out for the armbar. This girl has a lot of wins by armbar. That tells me Jasmine knows the game plan. She's not going to come out here and try to throw hands for extended periods of time. I think Jasmine's going to be diving on legs. I think she's going to be landing takedowns, and I think she's probably fine from top position. So I don't really rate Jasmine's ability to finish many fights. So I think if I was going to get involved here, which I have 1 unit play, plus money, plus 105, Jasmine by decision is my angle. It's not with a ton of confidence. That's why it's a smaller play. But I'm interested to see how Silva looks here. She might have made some improvements. I think she recently got promoted to purple belt, right? I think you mentioned. I was checking her Instagram. I think she's a good prospect, and I'm excited for this one. And hopefully Jasmine knows the game plan and she kind of rides it out from top position, so my bet cashes. But interesting fight, and I think Silva will win some fights in the UFC.
Fair play. And honestly, the reason I haven't gotten to a play on the Silva side is just because she seemed like a very public underdog. I saw a lot of people that seemed like they liked her this week, and that's always something that'll keep me off somebody or potentially keep me off somebody. Last week, it almost kept me off Jake Matthews. I got on right on time before the fight, but I was scared to follow the public there. And the thing that I'll say is if a lot of people are on somebody and they're still a plus 200, that's when I start to do the old stroke of the beard. That's probably not a good sign. So for me, if I see a late crash on the line, that would be indicative to me that she's more live like I expect. But if it continues to stay where it's at, that's going to give me, the impression that she's probably going to perform and do well, look okay, but lose the fight. And I think Jasmine by decision makes some sense. I'm also seeing that there's some steam coming in on the Jasmine inside the distance line. It dropped to like plus 250, I think, on Bet Online. Or plus 260, excuse me. So, very interesting lines here across the market. But best of luck to you guys who have plays on this. I do not have a bet on the fight yet. But I think that Natalia Silva is somebody I'm going to be looking forward to seeing how she develops moving forward in the UFC. And wanted to shout out Consigliere, I think, says she takes some time away, broken arm, bone issue, broken nose. Fair. No, I did discuss that she had an arm injury. I didn't know about the broken nose, but that's a great point to bring up. Maybe Jasmine could do something about that, but I don't really know that she's the biggest hitter in the world. But hey, should be a good competitive fight. That being said, we can move along here to Adrian Yanez versus Tony Kelley. And this is the talk of the town this week. I do see a lot of people that I like and respect that are taking the shot here on Tony Kelley. I don't like the Tony Kelley side this week. I think that for me, I look at this matchup and I say, why did they put this matchup together? I think that the UFC likes Adrian Yanez. He's gotten 4 performance bonuses through 4 fights. I think that they're trying to set him up to continue that run here. And I think that Tony Kelley, what's impressive about him, he's never been put away. But again, we're talking about a younger fighter with double the professional experience on the Adrian Yanez side. I think the level of competition for Yanez has been quite good regionally. And then he's come into the UFC and faced a little bit of an easier level of competition. But then, Tony Kelley is fighting like the same level of guy, if not lower, I would argue. Amir Al-Kazi is like probably not UFC level at all. Then you look at, he fought, what's his name, and did really well. Randy Costa. He looked great in that fight. Everybody could acknowledge. But I think that Adrian Yanez kind of laid out what happens in a Randy Costa fight, which is that if you let this guy get going early, he's got big kicks. He's not afraid to throw them, and he'll spend all his energy trying to kill you in the first round with long shots and big head kicks. I think that, Tony Kelley saw that and he's like, I should not stand at range with this guy. I need to break him down early and get after him. I think if you try and do the same approach with somebody like Adrian Yanez, he's a lot more disciplined in a approach to fighting. So he's going to try and move, jab, and make you pay when you advance recklessly. And I think that Tony Kelley, you could say a lot about his toughness and durability, but anytime you're talking about somebody's toughness and durability, it's because they get hit a lot in their fights. That's what, the old adage is. And I think it makes a lot of sense. I think Tony Kelley gets hit a lot in his fights by guys who are a little bit lower level. I think Adrian Yanez is going to hit him. I think he's going to hit him cleanly and hit him hard, and he's probably going to knock him out. So I think Adrian Yanez by knockout is something that I could see happening here. Tony Kelley says he wants to push the grappling. I don't know a ton about the Yanez grappling. I haven't seen a ton of it, but it does list him on UFC.com as a BJJ black belt. He is like the star. Like, this is the thing for me. He's the star pupil of Saul Lise, like the father of Texas MMA, who passed away last year. I don't think they're trying to bring him to Texas to get upset by the racist Tony Kelley, who the only reason he's been in the news is because he talks about he's the reason I use the hashtag Stop Brazilian Hate. You understand? Like, he brought this upon himself. And I keep telling you that these Brazilian ladies are coming to bop and they're coming to bang and they're not here to be trifled with. And all I'm saying is this. When they bring in a guy who's a big fan favorite with a lot of knockouts to fight a guy who gets hit in the face all the time, who's only made the news recently for being a racist on their program, I don't see that they're setting up Tony Kelley for a big win. I don't think that Tony Kelley's getting a split decision in Austin, Texas against the guy from Texas. I don't see that. So for me, I'm stopping Brazilian hate, and I'm either playing Adrian Yanez or passing on this fight. Pepe, how about you, my brother?
I have 1.5 units on Tony Kelley at plus 385. the number was absolutely ridiculous. And it's kind of Tony Kelley is the kind of fighter that I like to back because he's going to leave it all out there. I bet on him pretty big against Costa, money line at like plus 170, and ITD when the whole world was on Costa. I was on Tony Kelley. He was an unpopular underdog that week, and he cashed big. So I'm just taking some of the winnings from that last fight and rolling it over on the money line this side. It's not going to be an easy win for him or an easy fight for him by any standards. I definitely see why Yanez is favored, but he fights close and he's a slow starter. I can see Tony Kelley implementing some or trying to get the wrestling going. I don't know if he'll be able to, but if he's able to get grappling going and can bank top time, Yanez fought to a split with Kyle Estrada. He lost to Miles Johns. Like, he's not like this invincible fighter that, the UFC hype train is trying to make you believe. Like, he's definitely skilled, don't get me wrong. Very sharp on the feet.
Top 5 boxer in the history of the UFC or whatever that is.
Yeah, exactly. He lost to Davey Grant. I
had Davey Grant there. Sons of Guns. Sal D'Amato, it's on.
You got robbed, but I'm on the Kelley side. I love the heel energy that he's got. I love how he's grimy. I like those characteristics in fighters that I'm backing. Like, that scumbag energy. I'm going to do anything to possibly win the fight. Guys like Cheeto who will just leave it all out there. They're just there for violence. Maybe the defense isn't the best, but they're gonna bring it. And if you can beat them, good on you. But at that fat underdog number, I'm taking a bite.
I mean, that's a huge price that you got as well. I'm looking right now. Plus 247 is the best price on the market. So once again, Pepe beats closing lines, and that's just a way to profitably bet on sports. So can't ever hate on a guy beating a closing line by $1. And I think that that's the right side to be on if the numbers are there. I do think, though, that there's a lot of love coming in on the Tony Kelley side at this point. The market average has dropped down to plus 239 on the Tony Kelley side. He did open up actually at plus 285 for this matchup. So this has now dropped. It went up, it skyrocketed, and now it's come all the way back down. And significantly so past that opening range. So I think that that's interesting to note. I think that that could be important line movement. However, the other thing I want to say to combat the takes that I'm being biased here that I see in the chat, which I do respect and appreciate, I bet Tony Kelley against Amir Al-Kasi. I bet Tony Kelley against Randy Costa and by sub and in round 3. So I have had pretty good reads on Tony Kelley. But I think that Tony Kelley's got a game that's very functional against guys that will break. And I've seen Adrian Yanez get grapple effed, like you talked about, by Miles Johns for 5 rounds. And he kept trying to bop him, kept trying to hurt him. And that was when he was a lot more young, a lot more inexperienced. I think now he's kind of put the game together a little bit better. And I think we've seen him respond to adversity. Like, he was getting bopped on the chin by Randy Costa. I think we see a lot of prospects fall apart in that fight. And then he said, I'm going to bite down on my mouthpiece, come forward, and knock this guy out. And he did, and he broke him. And I think that he could do the same to Tony Kelley, as a matter of fact. So I think Tony Kelley's never broken before. I think he's going to break tonight. And that's my prediction. I think Tony Kelley's getting finished by Adrian Yanez. And I do wish you the best of luck on your bet, but that is my prediction. Evan, how about you, my brother?
I love it. All right. First of all, it's a great fight. I also have a 1-unit bet on Tony Kelley at plus 300. I think this fight's going to be much closer than that line indicates. My biggest bet of the card, and I'm starting to feel a little nervous about it after the weigh-in. Like, that was an intense face-off. Is the over 2.5? I got the over 2.5 at minus 110. Some money has come in on that. I also have a small play on goes the distance at plus 118. So I guess my thought is, I think Kelley's. I also have a 4th bet on this fight. I have Tony Kelley by split decision at plus 2,200, like a little sprinkle. Like, I think Yanez wins the fight, but I think these odds are too wide, in my opinion. I think Yanez is a very good prospect, very good talent. I don't even know if you can call him a prospect anymore. If he wins here, he's going to have a number next to his name. I think Tony Kelley's a dog, though, and I don't think he's going to quit on himself. I think he's probably going to eat some shots, but I think he's also going to have his moments, too. Really good fight, man. I'm kind of relying on their durability here. Neither guy's ever been finished. So I think, and neither guy's, I think, live for a sub. I think these guys are going to trade in the pocket. I think, Kelley might try to make it dirty in the clinch and things like that. Might have some success doing that. I think Yanez is a little small, if I'm being honest. Kelley's going to be much bigger. I'm hoping it goes over 2.5, man. That's kind of
much bigger. He missed the weight class.
I know, yeah. And Yanez is not a big bantamweight, in my opinion. And I don't think he has this huge power. Like most of his knockouts, has a head kick knockout, but he also has like a lot of TKO stoppages just by volume and an accumulation of strikes. I don't think Kelley will quit on himself in there. I think the over might get a little sweaty at points, but I like this fight to go over 2.5. So that's where I'm at. If Kelley somehow pulls it off, great. I just, cash a plus 300 ticket, but I'm expecting Yanez to win a decision, and then I'll cash my overs. But I think it's a really good fight, really fun fight. It's probably my pick for fight of the night.
What I will say about the over is Yanez isn't a big puncher, but a lot of the people that he's fought are like low pace kind of opposition, and Kelley is just going to bring it. I think he's going to be in his face from the time it starts, hunting the finish himself, which could invite, a possible finish on the other side. So yeah, I don't think Yanez has a lot of power or anything, but the pace would worry me.
I agree. I think it could look like the Kulabao Choi fight from last week, where I was on the goes the distance in that one, and I was sweaty, obviously. But again, you're kind of banking on these guys are tough. They're pretty historically very durable, and they're gonna fight for your money. And neither guy's gonna quit on themselves. Tony Kelley, if nothing else, he's kind of a dog, and I don't think he's gonna melt inside the octagon. So I think it could. I think a high pace. I think both guys are probably gonna land a lot. I'm just kind of banking on these guys hanging around for 15 minutes. So
that makes a lot of sense. I got to say, though, the one thing that really concerns me is that he only has a 10-fight sample size. So that's really not a large sample. I do think that, let's say he had 20 fights. Is he going to have a 0% finish rate or, gets finish rate? I kind of doubt it. I do think that this is probably, a step up in competition for him. I'm not sure who he's fought necessarily that's on the same level. I mean, yeah, I don't see anybody on his resume that's on the same level as Yanez, in my personal opinion. And then on top of that, 35 years old at bantamweight is just starting to get really old for a bantamweight. And I think that's part of the reason he missed the weight class. I would not be surprised if his next fight in the UFC is at 145 pounds. Tony Kelley is big, but when you miss weight but struggle to make it down, I do have some concerns. What if he gets hit with an errant body shot and he doesn't feel the same because of his recovery? So these are the kind of concerns I would have about the over, though I wish you the best of luck. I currently have no bets on the fight, but based on my rant, I'm probably going to have to put a little bit of Adrian Yanez inside the distance just to feel like I'm involved with stopping Brazilian hate one more time. But let's see what we can do about stopping Brazilian hate as we kick off the main card with a bout between Julian Marquez and Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez. And I've been on the right side of a bunch of RoboCop fights. Can't say the same for all the Julian Marquez fights out there. I haven't really been as interested in him as a betting commodity. And I did place a small bet on Sam Alvey the night he got brutally strangled by him. So that was fun. I basically like making a yearly donation to the Sam Alvey Relief Fund. And I couldn't get that one across the finish line, but Ryan Spann did the chicken dance. That's all I'll say. What we can point out, though, is that Julian Marquez, he's kind of like an archetype for somebody that would be a problem for RoboCop. I think that they kind of put this matchup together for a reason. They want to test if RoboCop is really worth his salt, because he goes out there against Petrosian. He fights a good fight, but he should have a clear grappling edge there. He doesn't really use it enough. And when he does try to use it, he kind of gets out physical a little bit. I do think Arman is an insane physical beast for the division. Probably not long for the division, but I have some questions about RoboCop. I have some skepticism. I thought the Jin Young Park fight, I cashed him there, not without issue, not without sweat. right? I needed 2 shirts. So I'm saying that when I go through a fight like this and I say I got to lay the -2XX, if you look at the good money distribution, I'm just spoiler alert, he's towards the top of the good money distribution. Gregory Rodriguez. I'm sure a lot of that was early line movers, like my man Pepe, who's constantly sniping prices that aren't going to hang around for a while. But now -200. Let me look across the market. I don't want to speak out of turn here. Oh wow, he's dropping significantly. Well, there you go. -165, -170s. Yeah, so really he kind of peaked at the -200 range. I think you've seen some intelligent buyback on this this fight. You know, I think that Julian Marquez, he's kind of got the wrong style for this guy. You know, if he does not get put out early, which he really doesn't get put out early, he's probably going to be in your face. He's probably going to keep trying to push the fight. And he's not the most technical guy in the world, but he's just a backyard brawler. And who would have beaten Gregory Rodriguez in that Jun Young Park fight? A backyard brawler who could take some punches and keep throwing back, because Gregory was like literally sucking wind. And I thought he did a better job pacing himself against Arman, but that led to a decision loss. I heard him say in the lead up to this fight, I am going to go out there and pursue a finish. Like I need to take the judges out of the equation. Well, that means he's going to spend himself in 7 minutes. And if he doesn't finish Julian Marquez, it's live bet season. And I think Marquez inside the distance, Marquez late round props, I understand those as shots here. There's not a ton of dogs that I'm necessarily in love with this week. I think Julian Marquez as a play, you could do worse because he's going to bring the fight. He's really hard to put away. And in fact, let me see what the line is. I don't want to say it if it's not too crazy, but yeah, Marquez by sub is only plus 950, so I'm going to stay away from that for sure. But I do think, you know, people have a misallocation of like what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu will do for you. It will put you in a good position to do offense. If you're completely exhausted, you might run out of defensive solutions in a fight, even if you have better Jiu-Jitsu than somebody. And that's how people who have good Jiu-Jitsu, like elite Jiu-Jitsu, get finished by people that have okay Jiu-Jitsu or quite good Jiu-Jitsu that have a better pace than them. And I do think that this is the kind of fight where pace could determine who gets the sub in the end. And Marquez might be the one who's able to do it. So Marquez round 3 sub for $5 is probably going to be my bet on this fight. How do you feel, Pepe?
I played Fight Doesn't Go the Distance at -170 for I think 2 units. And at first I thought I was going to get involved on the RoboCop side. And you know, you watch the Petrosian fight, and he looks excellent. So clean. His striking looks excellent. His grappling is very clean. But then you watch the Park fight, and red flags start popping out. I think cardio is a concern for RoboCop, and that's why he doesn't proactively grapple as much, because he knows he doesn't want to tire himself out. And I kind of just sense a late Marquez finish. But I also see the likelihood of RoboCop just getting him out there early. I think these guys are just going to stand and bang. I think it's going to be, you know, fight of the night type fight in front of the fans. The arena is going to be, you know, going crazy for this fight. I think they put it together because they knew it would just be a banger. So I'm hoping for high pace, just, you know, just trading crazy in the pocket and one guy collapses. So I didn't want to take a specific side because I saw the merit in both. And so I just played Fight Doesn't Go the Distance. I don't feel like it's a home run by any means. I just thought -170 was a pretty good price for it. Marquez has crazy durability, so there's a chance it does go all the way if, you know, Rodriguez can just like win minutes and they both get gassed out. You know,
classic 185, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. You know, Marquez getting taken down at will by Maki Pitolo wasn't a great look, but he was coming in off of a long layoff. So yeah, I don't feel great about it, but I definitely wouldn't be playing RoboCop at big juice favorite.
Marquez loses 12.5 minutes and wins by submission round 3 in 5, 4, 3, 2. Evan, how about you, brother?
So I actually have 2 units on RoboCop. I got a shitty number, -195. I don't disagree with what you guys are saying. Obviously, I think Rodriguez wins round 1 in a high clip. I think he's the better fighter. I think he blends the martial arts much better. I think Marquez, but he's going to be in your face. He's not going to go away. He's got a block head. He can throw hands. I think Rodriguez, all the metrics favor him. He's even, younger, longer reach. I think he's better striker, better grappler. Marquez defends takedowns at 53%. I think they're there if Rodriguez wants them, but Rodriguez might death gas after 8 or 9 minutes, and then Marquez is still there and he gets the 3rd round finish. I wouldn't be shocked. It could look like the Patolo fight where Patolo is the minute winner, getting these takedowns. Marquez isn't having a lot of success offensively in any capacity, but then he hurts him, and club sub is very live here. So I'm on Rodriguez. I hate the number I got. I totally understand what you guys are saying about Marquez. Good thing is I'll be watching the fight live, and if I think Rodriguez is done, I'm just going to hedge out. I think I'll probably get a better number live on Marquez. I think live betting for people listening at home is like, if you're starting to have doubts about a fight, or if you think that someone's success is front loaded, even if you bet them pre-fight, it makes sense to hedge out live. If look for body language. Obviously Rodriguez has a history of cardio issues, and Marquez doesn't really, and he's very durable. So I think he's going to be coming hard in round 3, and I might look to hedge, and I might at the end of the day profit on Marquez if it makes sense. But as of right now, I got 2 units on Rodriguez -195. Don't love it, but we'll see.
I do think that pre-fight, he probably makes sense as like the rightful favorite, because like one of the things I like to think about is who's going to win round 1 at a high clip, because then you're talking about live market setups for yourself. And I think that in this matchup, just on skills, like I don't know that Julian Marquez has ever won a first round on skills. Like the guy's really not that good at MMA. He's just a savage. Like he's a fighter's fighter. And I think that that's the problem. Like RoboCop skill for skill is going to cover his bases. And I think that that's what people love about him. But if he doesn't get that early finish, his game just starts to become a little more lifeless and predictable. It's a lot of straight shots down the middle with his chin up in the air. And I think that somebody like Marquez could definitely time an overhand or a big clubbing hook. So live exits will be a life raft in this fight if it starts to get too deep. But I do think that pre-fight, you're probably on the right fighter in terms of who should be favored to win round 1. So with that being said, we got a fight at 155 that people are really fired up about, myself included, because you got 2 guys who are both studs here that really don't get a lot of recognition. Now they're getting onto a main card spot here, chance to build their names, chance to build their reputation. And I think that you've got on the one hand, a guy in Demiris Magulov. He's got very few losses. I do think people should always go back and look at the amateur history as well. I do think he's lost an amateur fight or 2. So not quite as pristine a record as it seems on paper, but still an extremely impressive resume. Has fought a pretty high quality of competition. In the UFC, not necessarily the highest level of competition, has faced a little adversity, got hurt by Rafael Alves, who's basically like a front-loaded, dangerous finisher. In his last fight, he beat Thiago Moises, another guy who's like a fringe top 20 guy for the division, top 25. He beat Joel Alvarez, who did get exposed in his last fight as not really having the takedown defense quite yet to hang. He's a little too reliant on the guard game against somebody who's so dangerous like Arman. But he's still got a bright future in the division. So that's a solid win. Alex Gorgees, I literally don't remember who that is. So I went back and watched a bunch of tape. I didn't watch that one. I've never heard of that guy. And I watch this stuff every week. So I just think when I look at Demir, he's kind of giving me this vibe that he's going to get chin checked eventually. I do think he's a good fighter. I do think that he's got, pretty good skills. He can keep people off of him. But he doesn't blow me away as a very dangerous guy. He's a guy who's going to probably need to fight most people for 15 minutes to beat him. And that just leaves some openings. I know a lot of people that prefer those kind of fighters that are like just reliable soldiers, going to go out there. Exactly what they're going to do for 15 minutes. And I think that's kind of what Demir is. But that's not really the fighters I like to get behind personally. It's not to say it's a losing strategy. It's just not – I don't find my way to profit that way. Because I look for people that are dangerous, right? And I'm not playing Guram this week, but I do think he's probably the more dangerous of these 2 guys. He's going to throw more high-impact strikes that try and end the fight. I think if he can try and lock up a neck or something, he's more likely to pursue a submission hold that tries to get this guy out of there. Is he more likely to put himself out of position? Yes. Is he more likely to get hit with the jab cleanly 100 times? 1,000,000%. Is he more likely to lose on the judges' scorecards? Yes, he is. But that's the kind of thing that it doesn't feel like enough insurance for me. If I don't think the guy has a chance to go out there and hit you with a shot and put you down, that's a little bit concerning to me. Maybe Damir could do that. It's not really his MO. It's not really his game. It's going to touch you a lot of times. And he's going to mitigate damage. That's what he does pretty well. And I think that's why he's probably a safer pick this week. Guram is also going to be making his way into this fight after a long layoff, The Gamrot fight, I want to put a caveat on it, not to say that we throw it out, but to say that we should look at it with a grain of salt, because everybody from American Top Team has basically said Mateusz Gamrot was very, very hurt before that fight and fought a completely different game plan than what he wanted to and couldn't really perform like he wanted to, but he couldn't say no to the UFC. So I think that's something to keep in mind. Maybe we're putting a little bit too much faith behind Guram, but I think that I think this is a fight that I didn't have personal interest in laying it with Ismagulov here, but I do think he's probably the side. Pepe, how do you feel?
I played Ismagulov for 3 units at -150. I think we're getting some recency bias on the short line because of that Alves look. But the round 3 against Alves was the only round that Ismagulov has lost in the UFC. So I'm taking the better striker, the better grappler. Guram, like who has he fought outside of Gamrot? His striking defense is pretty bad.
Khamzat Chimaev in the training room, haven't you heard?
Yeah, exactly. He's got the way cooler beard. I'll give him that. You gotta put that into your capping a little bit, just on like an alpha level. But
it's at the same level of OnlyFans. If it's not in the number, you're just going to be off by a couple percentage points. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. Damir is just so clean with his performances. He's so well-rounded. He's good at winning minutes. And I didn't like what I saw from Guram's striking defense. He's low volume. He doesn't throw his hands. Like, it's all kicks. He slows down as fights go on. Level of competition worse. Got completely out-grappled by Oliver Enkamp, who's like a noodly Bellator lowish level fighter. Granted, it was a while ago, but still, like, Damir Ismagulov would never be out-grappled by Oliver Enkamp. So yeah, I think it's a generous line for Damir. I have him closer to like -210. And yeah, I'm pretty confident in that. That being said, the judging in today's MMA is just so gross that, like, I wouldn't be shocked if it was like a shit split decision that, he should have won, that goes to Guram. So yeah, I liked it at -150. As it's creeping up to like -170, values getting shaved off rapidly, but I still think he's the side. And I wouldn't even lay heavy juice on goes the distance, even though it probably does, because I think the Damir KO is live because of Guram's striking defense.
Legit. Well, that makes sense to me, man. Fair play. Evan, do you have a difference of opinion, or are you riding the same wave?
This is a pass for me. I'm excited. I think it's a great fight. I think both guys are talented. I'm just excited to sit back and watch this one. I think the line is probably pretty accurate. If I had to sit, maybe like, plus 157 out there, plus 155, and Guram might hold some slight value, because I think it's probably going to be close, and I think it probably goes to the card. So in a close fight that goes to the cards, I probably want the plus 160 ticket. But I'm excited. If I had a gun to my head, I think Damir probably edges him. I think he's probably the better minute winner. A little higher volume on the feet, but I'm excited. I think it's a really good fight. I think we're going to learn a lot about both guys. So it's a really good matchup. I'm glad they put this one together.
I like it, man. I like it, and I tend to agree. So this is the kind of fight where, because of my man Pepe's great argument, I will either consider the favorite here or I will end up passing on the fight entirely. But it's more so looking like a pass for me at current lines, though I am seeing some love for Guram. So if that continues to come down, maybe we get a better price on the Demir side closer to fight time. So with that being said, we can move along to another fight here on the main card. And speaking of giving me a sweat, I dropped 5.22 units on my boy Albert Duraev against Roman Kopylov, and he made me earn that one, huh? He made me sweat through a couple good shirts there. And Duraev has really given me some fits from a betting perspective, because I bet 3 units on Caio Bittencourt on the Contender Series at plus 300 against this guy, because I was thinking to myself, I don't see it. You know, I was like, he's good, but you know, when he gets to this level of competition against the guy who could do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu like this, because I went back, I watched Caio Bittencourt's grappling footage. I watched the fact that he had 9 whatever it was, 9 years ago, he had grappling matches online with elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners like Jacare. I was like, this guy is definitely going to be competitive in the grappling. Nope. He got smoked so bad and so fast, and his guard ran through like butter. And I was like, yo, this guy Albert Duraev on the ground is different. Like, if he's doing this to guys with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu background like Caio Bittencourt, he's going to get completely, smashed. So then I learned my lesson, right? I lost the units there, and I got a lot of them back by betting hugely on Albert Duraev against Kopylov, 5.22 units at minus 260. Now the line has come down pretty significantly from that fight. And I think that's a little interesting, right? Because on the one hand, Kopylov's a big guy. Like, I actually think he's a pretty sizable guy. I think he's kind of hard to get your hands around. And granted, Carl Roberson was able to submit him, but not before he got badly hurt in that fight. So I think Carl Roberson was able to win that one through some adversity there. Kind of a weird look. That was Kopylov's debut. He went away for a while. He came back. He looked a little bit bigger. And the real problem was that Duraev was overconfident on the feet. He was thinking to himself, I'm mopping this guy. Why do I take him down? I'm beating him up. I'm putting on a show for the fans. Then he gets hit with a big counter. His eye swells up beyond belief. And he's like, time to wrestle, panic wrestle, panic wrestle, panic wrestle. And the thing that I think people might be overestimating is the fact that he gassed out a little bit down the stretch there. If you've ever had to panic wrestle somebody, it's exhausting. Also, if you're afraid, you get tired fast. His eye was damaged. If he got hit a couple more times in the eye, the fight's over. So he was probably nervous as all get out that he's about to lose this fight, that he was clearly the more skilled athlete. So I think that there was a lot that went into that. I think that when you look at this fight, when you look at this matchup on paper, I don't necessarily see these massive flaws and holes in the Buckley grappling game, but I saw things to like about Caio Bittencourt's grappling, and he got murdered on the ground like he was no big deal. So I'm like, if Duraev is smart, which he probably, I'll tell you what, if you needed a reason to go out there and shoot takedowns, it's breaking your face. It's like getting a piece of your eye just like blown up on national television. I think that would teach somebody, hey, I should go out there and wrestle aggressively from the outset, not stand on the feet with these guys who have big power. They're giving him another guy with big power here. They're giving him a guy that wants to stand and kickbox. I think Duraev, if he's smart, is going to take this guy down and absolutely ride him like a donkey. When I look at Duraev's top game, it's very good. He controls wrists. He searches for chokes. He beats people up. He makes them pay when they're underneath. So I think that Duraev would be the side for me. I do see that there's a lot of market respect on the Buckley side. I think Buckley's a talented guy. If Buckley wins by knockout, it's not going to surprise me. However, there are a lot of boosts on the Buckley knockout prop. I think that that's his primary, if not only, path to a victory here. Maybe he stuffs the takedowns. I just don't see it personally. I think Duraev has a pretty good wrestling game to complement the top pressure. So overall, I'm going to go with Albert Duraev here, or pass on the fight entirely. Pepe, how do you feel?
So
10 units Buckley.
Yeah. Juneteenth weekend, like, what do you think is going to happen? Actually, the last time there was a card in Austin, Cowboy Cerrone headlined it. And there was
I looked at that too.
There was 3 African-American fighters on the card, and they all got finish wins in the card. So don't say I didn't warn you, but I would you be shocked?
So you said 10 units on Jeremiah Wells? Yeah, ship it. I hear you. No problem.
I know.
All right. Just yell it at me, Pepe.
I didn't see that because of my McGee bet. But would you be shocked if Jeremiah Wells, Buckley, and Holland all got finish wins this weekend? Not at all. Like they're putting him in situations where Duraev, all his losses are by first round KO. And so I played Buckley money line at plus 205 for a unit and a half. It's definitely a risky bet, but Buckley's grappling clearly isn't on the level of Duraev. I'm just betting it because Buckley is 9 years younger, in his physical prime, should be a lot stronger than Duraev. The cardio, he has better cardio, more power. I just need him to keep it on the feet. His takedown defense isn't great, so I wouldn't be shocked if Duraev gets him down early and, can either finish him or win minutes that way, like ride the whole round out, kind of like we saw Renat versus Michailidis. And I was a doubter on the Renat side, and he definitely proved me wrong. I was sweating that over 1.5.
Renat, fuck Renat.
Yeah, dude, you tried to warn me too. So I wouldn't be shocked if it was another situation like that, but Duraev, his fragility is something that you have to fade. When you've lost by knockout 3 times in round 1, it's probably going to happen again, especially as he gets older. How old is he? 34?
33. Compared to 28 on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. And Buckley has power. His striking isn't super clean, but when he hits guys clean, they go to sleep. And I can definitely see that happening today. So I like Buckley, unit and a half plus 205 for me.
Well, you might have said enough to keep me off the fight entirely, my brother. If anything, I would probably look to play unders here. Fight doesn't go. I think both these guys have a clear path to a finish. I think if Duraev's able to get on top of him, he might be able to make him look bad on the ground. I think that if Buckley's on the feet, the guy hits with an absolute S-ton of power. We have seen him knock people out in fights that he was losing as well. So the guy's got some comeback equity in him if we start to see him tiring out. I have a weird bad feeling. Because I kind of felt like Buckley was live and I wanted to get involved, but now the market has moved pretty strongly as well. Like Duraev's into the -2XX range on fight day. They're offering you like plus 195s on Buckley. That's kind of interesting. I don't think it's broken that plus 200 range. And if it doesn't, that could almost tempt me to the other side. That's the kind of range where you look for parlay busters. Just saying. My man Joe Anderson Brito closed in a similar range when he sent Feely's head flying. So I'm always looking for a good reason to fade a Russian. I've tried to fade this guy before, and he's cost me money. That's potentially why I'm feeling so nervous about this play.
They've actually trained together previously too.
That's what made me feel not good about it. Because if you heard the talk about it, I'm pretty sure Buckley was getting wrecked when they trained together, which would make sense. You have to think about Buckley's skills are to knock people's heads off. That's not really a training room skill. Whereas Duraev is I'll get on top of you and do whatever I want, which is a very good training room skill. So I think that potentially, that could be something that's giving him false confidence as well. But you would think if he had been wrecking him in the wrestling in the room, that he would do that in the fight. But again, Duraev, if we've learned one thing, it's that he will make stupid decisions sometimes in fights, like standing on the feet with Kopylov. That was just a grade A dumb decision. Did not fight with nearly the sense of urgency that he did when he fought on the Contender Series. And I think that, oh shit, there's a narrative for you. All right, lock it in, guys. Make your plans. We're flying. Where's that one taking place? We're flying Texas next June. The showdown. Oh my goodness. Either way, I think that's going to be an absolute banger. I think both those guys are a lot of fun in terms of prospects for this middleweight division. Evan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I don't have a play on this fight. I'm just not that impressed with Duraev. He's coming in very confident again. Like if you hear what he's talking about in his pre-fight interviews, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna basically mop the floor with this guy, and then I'd like to fight on the July 2nd card. Like and kind of to your point about his overconfidence in the Kopylov fight. I don't know. I can't trust Duraev. I'm looking to fade him at some point. I don't know if this is the fight to fade him. I'm starting to think. I think, how wrong can I be on Buckley? Like almost plus 200. I'm gonna stay away, but I just was not impressed with Duraev on tape. The Kopylov fight, he had that dominant round 2, but the way he got a takedown in that fight was like ridiculous. Remember, like Kopylov like grabbed the fence, the referee restarted, and Duraev was able to like have his hands locked, behind his hips, and just Kopylov didn't even attempt to defend that. But aside from that, where he got dominated in round 2, Duraev was struggling to drag him to the mat. So I don't know. This fight might play out on the feet longer than we anticipate, and Buckley's live. Like Buckley's a little tank. He can throw some heavies, and Duraev is not he's not immune to being dropped. He was knocked out by Ramazan Ameev. So
true.
I
think that was at 170 though. That was the only context I wanted to give there. He used to cut down to 170, and now he's at 185. So I think that does improve his chin.
He's a big middleweight either. I don't think
he's not a massive middleweight. Neither one of these guys is a big middleweight.
They're both small for middleweight.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's a high variance fight, which I'm happy to just watch and learn some things.
The thing that I was just going to lastly point out is like, it's about body types as well. And I do think that Duraev, like in terms of lower body takedowns, I actually think he should be able to get them here. But if he tries to go upper body with this guy, like, have you ever seen the guys, like he's got a barrel for a chest. Like you can't even wrap your arms around that guy. I don't know how you body lock him. So that's something that would definitely concern me on the Duraev side. I think that, concerns for the Buckley side, winning a split decision against 1 round Abdul Razak Al Hassan's a little bit scary. I thought that the Arroyo fight was a good win, but I did not think he was winning it early. And then losing by knockout in the first round to Alessio Di Chirico is like one of the strangest outcomes in UFC history, in my opinion. Like I have faded Alessio Di Chirico at mostly the perfect times, and that time I was like, this is an obvious play on Buckley. Dead, of course. But either way, guys, I think that it should be a fun fight. Middleweight tends to produce a good amount of violence, and we've got another fight here from a former middleweight who's not opposed to violence. His name is Kevin Holland. Big Mouth is back, and he's taking on Tim the Dirty Bird Means. Everybody likes Tim Means. I like Tim Means as well, but I think it's Kevin Holland's season. I think it's Big Mouth season. You've got Kevin Holland coming in off cashing me a very nice ticket. His last time out, I had Kevin Holland against Charlie Ontiveros. I had Kevin Holland faded against Derek Brunson. I had Kevin Holland against Jacare. I had Kevin Holland against Darren Stewart. So I basically had a pretty good read on these Kevin Holland fights. And I think that Kevin Holland is being set up for a win in this fight. You got Tim Means, a guy I like, a guy I respect. 7 of his 12 losses are inside the distance. That's a factor. He's 38 years of age. That's a huge factor. Kevin Holland's 29. He's rounding into his fighting prime. He fought at 170. He fought at 185. He's had 16 fewer pro fights, so he doesn't have the same level of wear and tear, miles, damage accrued on his body like Tim the Dirty Bird Means, who has been looking a little bit regressed, even in his recent wins, I would argue. Not to say he's not putting together some better skills. I think his skills have been improving. I think his physical attributes have been declining, and noticeably so. And I think that guys who are big physical athletes like Daniel Rodriguez were able to make him pay for that. We're able to hit him with big, hard shots. And I think that we could see a club and sub type scenario that's not unlike that here. Kevin Holland's going to be trying to hit this guy with long range, hard shots. I think that he's going to be implementing a better striking style than Tim Means over the course of the fight. I think that it's going to be competitive while standing early, but I think Tim Means is going to slow down a little bit more and become more reactive as the fight goes on. I think that's going to get him tagged on the chin as it has in the past, and I think that he's subject to being knocked out by Kevin Holland, which is why my primary play on this fight was inside the distance at plus 185. But I also took Kevin Holland to win by submission at plus 900. I had expressed moderate interest at plus 700, but I was going to wait and see where it closed out. And I thought that we would see, a decreased on that line because Kevin Holland's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, because Tim Means has been submitted 5 times, because he's been submitted by a guillotine 4 times, because Kevin Holland has 3 wins by guillotine in his career. So I think that there is a clear path here for Kevin Holland to win the fight. I think there's a clear path for him to win inside the distance. He is a Texas native fighting in Texas. I think that this is a showcase spot for Kevin Holland. And this is a guy that they've put in a few situations where they wanted him to win. They wanted him to win inside the distance and do so impressively. I think at 185, that's a lot harder for him to do. He doesn't necessarily have the physicality to push on people at that weight class. I think at this weight class, at his age, he will have the physicality. He will have the recoverability. He will have the durability. Knock on wood. And so I'm betting on Kevin Holland this weekend. He's my biggest play of the weekend, and I really like him in this spot. Let's go big mouth. Silence the haters. Pepe, how do you feel?
Yeah, so I was looking at that Holland ITD number at plus 165 earlier in the week, and I just looked and it's gone. The best available ITD line is plus 140 on FanDuel. I'll have a piece of that.
I fleeced them. I got FanDuel for plus 185.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely see Holland. I have no interest on the mean side. Give me the longer, faster, better striker. He has everything going for him for this fight. People will say Means has the wrestling to maybe make it close. I just don't see it being that competitive on the feet. And I just don't love playing big favorites. So that's why I'm not I haven't played anything on it, just because that's not my style. But I'll probably take a poke on the ITD line just to tell with the boys.
My man. And I don't know what the current line is on sub, but it was on FanDuel. If anybody wanted to ride with me, it's dropped to plus 850. But the rest of the market's holding plus 700 or lower. So if you're interested in taking that shot with me, I think it's an interesting one. I could see it playing out as he gets hurt on the feet, takes a desperation shot. Kevin Holland, standing, Gilly, thanks. That's all she wrote. He's got long arms. He goes for front headlock chokes. So I wouldn't be stunned to see it. Evan, how about you?
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I don't have a play on the fight, but Tim Means here is, for a guy who is primarily a boxer and likes to use his length, he's at a 6-inch reach disadvantage. I think stylistically, I just think it's a tough fight for him. 38 years old. Holland's going to be a lot longer, faster. I think Holland's pretty sharp on the feet, especially when there's not as much of a takedown threat. I mean, the narrative that Tim Means is going to come out here and chain wrestle, I don't really get. Tim Means averages less than a takedown per 15 minutes. He's got a 39% takedown accuracy. That's not his game. I think these guys are going to box. And, I think Holland's probably the better striker, more dynamic striker at this stage in the game. I think Tim Means, closer to his prime, maybe could have hung in a little tougher, but I think the line's accurate. I think those Holland inside the distance props are probably a good look. But right now I don't have anything, but I'll take a look and see where the sub prop is, across the market. I think Holland's pretty safe.
Couldn't find my tab there for a second. I was still placing bets. But I think that that's a great read, man. I truly believe in Kevin Holland's abilities for this weekend. Is he a long-term, contender at 170? Well, that I don't know. But right now, when they're trying to position him to make that run, I'm going to be betting Kevin Holland inside the distance against these guys. And when they have a bunch of losses by sub, I'm going to keep betting the sub prop if they make it this long. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Even against the Brendan Allens of the world, this guy was attacking subs and grappling with him pretty competently until he gassed out. So I think that Kevin Holland definitely has something to offer in this fight from a grappling perspective as well as from a striking perspective. And with that being said, we have no co-main event to talk about, guys. It got canceled. I'm devastated. The Cowboy was going to try and ride one more time in Austin. Joe Lauzon, I believe that I read he blew out his knee trying to put on a sock. So if that's not an indication of what this fight was from the beginning, I don't know what is. It was an old guy fight. We love them. We respect them. Two guys who are out there slinging leather for quite some time, but a little bit past it. These guys can hardly make it to the fight. With due respect, this is the second cancellation in as many weeks, I believe. So it's probably just better to move on and not have this fight take place at all. So far as I'm concerned, man, this is a fight that, probably for the best that it didn't end up popping off. Pepe, do you agree?
Dude, they should have forced Lauzon to fight with a blown out knee. Like this is just so ridiculous. I'm pretty disappointed that it got canceled, but at least they announced it before lineups locked.
DraftKings, people would have been sick, man.
Yeah,
and rightfully so.
Yeah, there's not many worse feelings than having your fighters get canceled after lock. It sucks, but yeah.
I think as a short notice co-main event, let's get our man Track Bray. He's taking in Askarov. That's our new short notice main event, or whatever the other 10 names he goes by is. I'd rather watch that one anyways. Evan, did you have any bets on the co-main event? Were you excited about the fight? What did you end up coming away with?
I was excited. I had fight doesn't go the distance at -182. I felt like that was a very safe line.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see it, man. I wanted to see it. I'm glad that we know now before lineups locked in an hour and a half, because I got absolutely wrecked last time this fight was canceled and they announced it during the broadcast. So I'm happy in that regard, but it sucks, Both these guys are legends of the game, and I kind of wanted to see them go out there and throw down. I think probably Cerrone was probably going to get worked early. I think he's done. I think, obviously they're both done. I can't. If he actually
Lauzon might have taken 3 steps towards him, blown out that knee, fell sideways, and the fight's over.
Yeah, well, I would have cashed my bet, so.
Glorious. Can't beat that.
Yeah. Sucks, man. What are you going to do?
The under did feel like a lock.
A lock,
yeah. It felt like a really good bet, man. And I mean, the fight doesn't go the distance and moved like 100 points and was still in transit. So, yeah, it seemed like a pretty good side. Maybe the bookmaker didn't want too much liability on that fight doesn't go. They're like, yeah, no, we'll book it again in 2 weeks. How about that?
I was actually going to play that with Holland as like a last minute parlay just to, have some action on those late fights. But, yeah.
That's brutal, man. But either way, guys, we have the most people we've ever had rocking with us for the main event, 153 people. We might have to start doing this live every fight Saturday, but truly appreciate you guys for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure breaking it down with these two wise gentlemen, these two sharp gentlemen, going to keep me off some bad bets this week, hopefully going to talk me into some great bets. And this is a fight that I did a in-depth written breakdown for my friends at Roto Grinders. If you're interested in checking that out, go to my Twitter page at LiamPicksFights. You can find it there. I've kind of done a full swing on this fight, right? I started the week thinking, how could Calvin Kattar lose this fight? He's so much bigger. He's so much taller. He's got length. He's going to throw a lot of shots from long range. He's got a long jab. He's pretty crisp striker. He made super big improvements fight over fight from the Holloway fight to the Giga fight. He implemented some spins. He threw more kicks. He added some offensive variety. I thought to myself, man, Calvin Kattar might be really rounding a corner here. He shot takedowns in that fight. He kind of showed the right fight IQ. And then I rewatched the fight and I looked back at the stats and he gave up 130 strikes basically in return in that fight. And, he kind of let Giga off the hook, to be honest with you. I had 2 units on Calvin Kattar plus 200. So I rock with Calvin Kattar heavily. He shipped me a big bag, but I had a $10 parlay crash on Calvin Kattar by knockout. That should have cashed. It was a free bet. Should have won me 500 bones. And it crashed on my man Calvin Kattar not getting the finish. I had Calvin Kattar inside the distance at plus 375. He does not get it done inside the distance there, despite absolutely dog walking Giga Chikadze through every portion of that fight, truly. So it's like, that's a big concern for me, right? When I look at Calvin Kattar, the guy's got some knockouts that are just insane, right? Like Shane Burgos, that guy's chin is from Hades. Like putting that guy away is such a stamp. It's such a huge victory. Both those guys, big up-and-coming prospects at the time. Shane's probably up 2-0, rally cap season. The man Calvin Kattar comes alive in round 3 and finds the finish. We've seen him do it before in round 3, where he just starts to pick up on the rhythm, the timing, and start to really pick his opponent apart. He did that a little bit against Zabit. Rest in peace. Enjoy your retirement, my brother. Not my doctor, but I do appreciate you. And I think that when we watch back the Renato Moicano fight, we see a clear susceptibility. If you're a leg kicker, if you're a guy who's going to attack his legs and present him with length, like Max Holloway as well, that's going to cause some problems, some issues for Calvin Kattar. So I said to myself, how is somebody 5'6", Short King Nation, president of Short King Nation, as a matter of fact, Josh Emmett, this weekend, he's main eventing a UFC. So he is the interim president of Short King Nation, 5'6". But I then watch back and I'm like, man, how does Josh Emmett win these fights? It's like he mitigates the action coming back at him. You know, people don't want to get in the pocket and engage with him because he hits so hard. He swings heavies, right? And he's got a counter loaded for you. So if you come into the pocket, he's going to swing back and he's going to try and take your head off with every return. That could be a problem over 5 rounds. We've never really seen him go 5 rounds in the UFC. He was scheduled for 5 5s with Jeremy Stephens in a fight that had a kind of controversial ending. He basically absorbed a illegal strike, but very partially. And then Jeremy was able to put him away with some legal strikes. But, you know, it was kind of an ugly knockout. It was kind of a little bit of a weird happenstance. And other than that, you just look at the resume of Josh Emmett, and it's incredible. You know, he's 8-2 in the UFC. He's 37 years of age. That's the problem, right? That's the little bit of concern. He's coming off some surgeries as well. But I just like what I see from Josh Emmett in terms of his power, his ability to mitigate the volume coming back at him. And you look at his defense, he's significantly better at defending strikes than Calvin Kattar. He just does not get hit as often. Calvin Kattar is like lackadaisical with his defense. And Max Holloway, he is a great fighter. He's an elite fighter. He put an absolute working on him, 445 strikes, the most ever landed in the UFC bout, significant strikes, that is. And Calvin didn't go down, right? He's a very tough guy. He's built different. But here's my problem. He didn't go down. He just ate 130 strikes. He didn't go down. How long is that going to last? He's 34. He's no spring chicken either. And this is a fight that seems like fireworks. Here's my problems from a betting perspective. Number one, I'm seeing Emmett by KO boosted. I'm seeing Emmett by decision boosted. I'm seeing Calvin by KO boosted. I'm seeing fight goes to decision boosted. How do I read this boost market? You're boosting every single thing except submissions. So then I was like, okay, let me do my a little deeper dive. Let me find out who's been working on their grappling and this and that. These guys don't grapple, right? Like, neither one of them has spent more than 10% of their fight time grappling. Josh Emmett is more likely to get takedowns in this spot. He's more accurate when he shoots them, and he's lower to the ground. He's got a better base, a better center of gravity for driving through somebody on a takedown, in my opinion, than Calvin Kattar. But Calvin Kattar's got better takedown defense than Josh Emmett. So it's like the guy who's more likely to shoot takedowns, who gets more takedowns, he's probably not going to be super incentivized to shoot takedowns in this matchup. And then on the other side, you got Calvin Kattar. He attempted one takedown against Giga Chikadze. He probably could have kept going for him, but he chose not to. He wants to get in a fight on the feet. He wants to be in these scraps. Go back and watch the Jeremy Stephens fight. He was getting damaged. He was getting hurt. He was getting hit with shots, but that's what he likes. He likes getting in a brawl with somebody. He likes throwing down, and he has these big, devastating shots. If you think Josh Emmett can't get knocked out in this fight, you're kidding yourself. Because Josh Emmett puts himself in the fire sometimes too. We've seen him get knocked out by Jeremy Stephens, right? So we kind of saw similar level of competition. This could definitely happen. Calvin Kattar puts a little bit more good work together. He throws the jabs. He's a little bit more consistent. He's going to throw more volume. But in doing so, he's going to give counter opportunities to a guy who hits like an effing truck. And I think that Josh Emmett, what if he sneaks some rounds here that are very close? I'm talking about razor thin margins on the feet, and he takes him down with a minute left. Gets a couple ground and pound shots off as he gets back to his feet. That could be the difference maker. And I think that I have too many question marks, too many concerns on the Calvin Kattar side here to back him at this minus 235 chalk, right? If you say minus 170, I say, I understand, right? That was the opening line. A lot of people who are smart got in and got involved at that number. Okay, no hate there. But now you're asking me to say 70% of the time, Calvin Kattar is going to win this fight against a guy who's gotten a knockdown in every UFC bout, like a guy who can actually knock out anybody at 145 pounds, a guy who, when he tore his ACL, MCL, this and that, ruptured this, he still beat Shane Burgos unanimously on the cards, which is not easy to do. All these things put together, I'm like, am I underrating this guy, Josh Emmett? Because I look at the Calvin Kattar side and I say, everything that you want to justify a bet, you have there. Right? Coming off of a big win, looked great, career best performance potentially. He has a profitable return as a favorite. A lot of good things to like there. But then you look at the other side. You look at Josh Emmett. The guy as an underdog is one of the most profitable underdogs in the history of the featherweight division. There's just no other way about it. The guy has been, by a factor of 30%, under his expected win rate. So if you look at his average odds, they're 30% less than his expected win rate versus actual win rate. Okay? So Josh Emmett is a perennially slept-on contender. There's no other way to say it. Last fight out, he was favored. I bet him bigly in that spot because I was pretty sure Dan Ige was a winnable opportunity for him. They wanted to get him back on track. They wanted to give him a fight to get his feet under him. Dan Ige, with respect, isn't the most dangerous guy in the division. He can knock you out with one punch, but if he doesn't, he's probably not going to finish you. He's got a little bit of a grappling deficiency at the higher level of elite featherweight. So now we see they're giving him a real step up. They're saying, if you want to do this, this is the time. I think the UFC picked the most winnable fight for him in the top 5, potentially, with Calvin Kattar, because Calvin Kattar is going to probably oblige him in the fight he wants. He's going to go out there. He's going to box with him. And if Josh Emmett is boxing with you, it's hard for me to say that he's got a 30% chance to win when he's got a massive, massive power advantage compared to Calvin. You know, I think Calvin hits like a truck. I think he can knock anybody out. But you look at the facts. The facts are he's got a 0.8% knockdown rate compared to a 3% knockdown rate for Josh Emmett. That's a huge difference, categorically different. So I think Josh Emmett has the bigger power here. My only concern is that his power may be limited from these knee surgeries, from these injuries he's dealt with. Maybe we get a diminished version of that power at this stage of the game. But ultimately, I have to say, I think that Josh Emmett is the side here at plus 200. That would be the side I would play personally, or I would pass entirely on this fight. But I think that some other things that interested me, the over 3.5 is like minus 150 in this spot. Featherweight fights tend to go over. I know I'm talking about both these guys have knockout power. They're both the toughest sons of bitches on earth. Like, you're going to have to floor one of them. You're going to have to hit them with a really hard shot, I think, to put them away. I could see both these guys fighting into that 3rd, 4th, 5th round and it being an absolute dogfight. So the over 3.5 tends to cash in a pretty high rate in main events overall. And then you look at this kind of main event, frankly, featherweight fights tend to go over at a pretty decent clip as well. And that's been a recent trend in the UFC, typically in 3-round fights. Maybe it's a little different here over 5 rounds, but we did see even Volkanovski and Korean Zombie, where there was a massive level gap in skill. It was a 4th, 5th round finish. These guys are really tough. And I would class the toughness of Korean Zombie right up there with the toughness of Calvin Kattar, right up there with the toughness of Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, his mentality is the reason I can't bet against him today. Like, the guy has a iron will for a mind. He tore his knee and just kept throwing heavies with Shane Burgos with no regard for his own health and safety. The guy will do anything to win. And so that's not a guy I can bet against at plus 200. I have a small bet on Josh Emmett. I don't feel very confident that he wins the fight, but I do feel confident that plus 200 is a little wide on somebody of his talent and caliber at an elite featherweight matchup. Pepe, how do you feel?
Excellent breakdown, Liam. You did a great job covering it. So what I'll say, my play on the fight is I have a small 1-unit bet on the fight doesn't go the distance at plus 100, even though you were kind of making arguments against it. Like, I see what you're saying, definitely valid points, but Emmett hits like a goddamn truck, and Calvin's defense is pretty poor. He's there to be hit, and Emmett's never been 5 rounds. So I think we're getting a fair price on doesn't go the distance at plus 100 for a 5-round fight. And I'm hoping Kattar can get a late round KO, because I did sprinkle the 4 and 5. If you're interested in doing late Kattar sprinkles, DraftKings has the best market available prices across the board for 3, 4, and 5.
I love it, my man. I love it. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't hate both of those bets. As a matter of fact, I'm going to pick between them, and I actually like yours a little bit better. But I mentioned the over 3.5 because I thought it stood out to me. But man, fight doesn't go the distance being priced even money when you've got 2 guys that hit with this kind of power. It's a little tough because neither one of them is likely to get finished. But we have seen Calvin Kattar get submitted. It was in 2008, for those of you keeping track. And we have seen Josh Emmett get knocked out, I mentioned before, against Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah,
so
and he's
37
now.
And 34. You know, we got 2 older guys, older than the average age at featherweight by a considerable margin. I guess taking the fight doesn't go, probably even a more sound look. So this is why we bring on the sharpest guys like Pepe to help us steer in the right direction. And I do think it might go over 3.5 and end inside the distance. We might both end up being right, but I kind of like your look better given the price. Evan, my man, I'm curious to hear. Do you agree? Do you think that this is going to be a violent masterpiece? Or what do you think you expect in the main event?
So I agree with both of your takes. Liam, that was a great breakdown. Over 3.5 seems appealing to me because I think that these guys, I think it turns into a dogfight over the course of the fight. Like, but I could see a kind of a slower first round feeling out process. You know, Calvin Kattar's no dummy. He knows that Josh Emmett can throw heavies. And Josh Emmett, he can be low volume at times, but he's also capable of keeping up on volume if there's volume coming at him. Like, for example, in that Shane Burgos fight, Emmett landed 127 strikes over 3 rounds, you know, because Burgos was in his face coming after him, and Emmett he could keep up on volume if need be, but I don't think he's, you know, I could see, you know, Kattar trying to keep distance early, work his jab, and Emmett's kind of like low volume early because he's never been in a 5-round fight. He's a smart guy. He knows, you know, he's everything he throws with maximum effort, maximum power. So I could see it kind of like, to both of your points, I could see the over 3.5 hitting, but I think this eventually turns into a dogfight because these are two dogs in a cage, 34 years old, 37 years old. Eventually they're going to be exchanging in the pocket, and they both can crack. They're both susceptible to, you know, getting hurt. I could see a late finish in this fight. I don't have a bet on the fight. I think at current pricing, Emmett is the side for me because think about, I don't know if this is the greatest comparison, but Piotr Jan versus Corey Sandhagen. Sandhagen landed more volume in that fight, but it was obvious who won the fight because Jan was landing with much more volume. So I don't think Josh Emmett's drawing dead on the decision here. I think he could get technically outstruck on the feet, but land the heavier shots. Guy lands a knockdown in every fight. Kattar's hittable. Calvin Kattar's very hittable. I think Emmett at some point in this fight is going to land some heavies. Kattar's always been proven to be very durable. Like that Max Holloway fight was insane, the way he hung in there and didn't get dropped. Emmett hits harder than Max Holloway. Emmett's going to sit down on his strikes. I don't know. I don't know who wins the fight. I think it's going to be close. I think it's a close fight. I think both guys are live to finish. I think if it goes to the cards, I'd much rather be holding an Emmett plus 200, you know, money line ticket than the Calvin Kattar. I don't have a bet right now. If I was going to bet, I think Emmett's the side at current pricing. I think he's being a little disrespected here by the odds makers, by the market. But I think it's a great fight. I think it's going to turn into a dog fight, and I think it's going to be phenomenal. So I agree with what both of you guys said. I'm just really excited to watch it. I think maybe Calvin Kattar live might make sense if it gets extended and Kattar's, you know, proven to take the shots. And, you know, I trust him a little more over 5 rounds. We haven't seen Emmett do it. But I guess that's probably my angle. But if I was going to bet it pre-fight, it's definitely Emmett.
I love it, man. And the craziest thing about it is that Calvin Kattar, he's throwing 12.64 attempts per minute. He is facing 16.1 attempts per minute. He is landing 5.19 attempts per minute, and he is absorbing 7.64 strikes per minute. So he is one of the very few guys in the top 5 in the UFC with a negative strike differential. That's why we love him. That's why he puts on these insane fun wars. But that is also something that eventually you're going to pay the price for. And I think that, you know, we actually saw this a little bit with his teammate Rob Font, who's another great fighter who I really like. But just putting yourself in range to be hit constantly without tools to manage distance, you know, those guys are willing to get in the pocket and trade. And I think that eventually that will cost you against the guys that hit bigger, against the guys that aren't afraid to throw in the pocket. Jose Aldo proved that point. Chito Vera proved that point in different ways, fundamentally different. One was boxing, one was kicking. So I think that we could definitely see, you know, a smart approach here from Josh Emmett. This is his last chance to make a run into the top 5. He wants a title shot badly. And I kind of thought he was going to get it over the Korean Zombie with his win over Ige. He didn't get there. I think that if he gets this win, they will fast track him to a UFC title opportunity. And to be honest with you, I think that's one of the more compelling title fights they can make. You might call me crazy. I call Volk the best pound for pound fighter. How do you beat the best pound for pound guys? You gotta shut him off. You got like John Jones. Why can't anybody beat him? Can't shut him off. Can't submit him. Hard to win minutes. It's like, all right, that's a tough guy to beat. I think that in this case, Volk, you know, if you're going to try and beat him, you're going to have to put something on him that either backs him up, changes his game plan, or puts him down. And I think Josh Emmett's one of the guys at featherweight with a chance to do that. maybe Yair Rodriguez as well. But that's a conversation for another day. I've already taken up too much of your time. You guys have been absolutely phenomenal. I think this is one of the best betting breakdowns ever to come out of this channel. So I hope that you guys make money. I hope that everybody out there has enjoyed the program. Want to say a special thank you to both of you guys for taking the time. And Pepe, please let the people know, where can they find your great work, my brother?
So I don't produce my own content. I just jump on other people's stuff. I'm on Spaces a couple times a week, whether it's with Chad and Sean or Narco Cop or jumping on your stuff, Tim's stuff. I'm all over the place. But yeah, just follow me on Twitter and I'll retweet what kind of stuff I'm going to be doing. And I give my plays out for free on my Bet MMA page. I don't tell people go bet this, but I make people aware of what I'm betting, and you can tell if you want. I don't always put up my plays immediately, to avoid lines getting steamed for other people potentially. But that's my way of giving back to the community. Yeah.
I love it, man. I truly appreciate that. And guys, if you're not checking out Pepe's work, you're just fooling yourself. You're putting yourself in a worse position to win. I know I always try and consult with him. Absolutely.
It's been
crushing it, bro. And guys, if you're interested in what he means, go ahead and check his third-party tracked results. It's all down below in the description box if you're interested in more information. You could also find him on Twitter at the tag that's in front of him, but also his information and a link to his Twitter is in the description box below. Same thing with my man, Evan. It was an absolute pleasure to have you on for the first time. First time meeting you as well officially, but truly feels like an old friend. We've gone back and forth on Twitter many times, so it's a pleasure to have you on, my man. I'll consider you a friend for life moving forward. Certainly a friend of the show as well, and truly appreciated you being here. Where can the people find you?
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me on. It's a great time. Just hit me up on Twitter. I do all right. I've got an 8% ROI over, it's my third year tracking bets. So
beating the stock market.
Yeah. You could do worse than following some of my picks, but I'm always willing to chalk it up with anybody on Twitter. Shoot me a DM. I'm doing this every week, so let's cash those tickets, boys. Good luck.
Always. And guys, I just want to say, if you're curious who I am, if this is your first time stopping by, I truly appreciate that. My name is Liam. I pick fights each and every week here on YouTube. I'm excited. I'm going to be bringing another interview to you guys with my man, Blake Perry, making his second professional fight appearance. I believe this one's going to be on a Fight Pass organization. So we're going to have a plenty more information for you there. We're going to be asking Blake how it felt to cash that plus 750 for the audience there in that Bellator debut. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, I would just say I've been having quite a year myself as well, looking to keep the ball rolling each and every week. Learn a lot from the great guys on Twitter, like Pepe, like Evan, my man in the library, so many of the people that have been in the chat today as well, all the people from the Arcana Dome, all you guys, I truly appreciate your support. It means the world. So readers are leaders. More information is better. Go get what's yours, as my man Mike's MMA pick says as well. I can't wait to check out what he had to say about this card. I'm fired up, guys. I'm ready to go. I think this is a great one. So thank you guys. You guys are all great members of the community. God bless you all. Enjoy the fights. And until next time, this has been another great episode of Liam Picks Fights. Come back and we're going to have all the same fun again. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Liam.